Chapter 3 Outside the Box to Box. Congratulations, you just became CEO. Imagine you finally got the biggest promotion of your life. You're beaming with excitement, so much that you run out of the office into your dream car, a Rolls Royce, and speed home. After you arrive at your luxury home in the rich area of town, you make your way inside and do a happy dance. Open the bottle of Dom Perignon you've been saving for the day, and order the nicest steak dinner you can buy. Overflowing with excitement, you grab your phone to call your best friend and tell them the great news. But you've forgotten that you don't actually have any true friends. A little bummed out, but still hyped from the news, you run upstairs to tell your spouse and hope for some celebratory play. But you realize you don't actually have a spouse you love, or any children, for that matter. Your family doesn't live in the same city, so you can't make your way over to their houses. The big, empty house that you find yourself in is starting to seem like a symbol of your life. That story illustrates how the box-to-box problem can be a big issue. Even if you finally manage to achieve your goals in your career and financial status and gain material possessions. At the end of the day, or life, your feelings about yourself after you've achieved everything you thought you wanted truly depends on the strength of your connections to people around you. Are these people there to celebrate you? What if you got the worst news of your life? Will they be there to support you? The solution to the lack of connection and loneliness that results from living the box-to-box lifestyle is to strengthen your connections to the people you like and spend as much face-to-face time with them as possible. Doing this will bring you a consistent source of human connection from those you love and trust, and who care about you in return. The goal is quality over quantity. Having a small group of close friends with whom you are connected will make you feel far more fulfilled than having a large network of casual acquaintances or having hundreds of social media followers, although all have their benefits. The solution consists of two parts. First, you must have strong connections with those you truly like. The benefits of having social relationships, the joy, the emotional fulfillment, the support system, all come from strong emotional connections, not shallow, casual ones. Second, you need to spend as much face-to-face time with your friends as possible. Even if you have strong connections with close friends, if you don't see them consistently, you may still feel quite lonely. Texts, social media posts, and video calls don't create the same emotional fulfillment as having your friends physically in front of you. Keep in mind, when I use the words friends here, I'm referring to anyone you have a strong social connection to. This can include coworkers, romantic partners, family members, or anyone you know. Intention builds friendship. The key to creating a social life you love is being intentional. Being intentional with the people you choose to strengthen connections with, and be intentional about strengthening those connections. Creating a social life isn't a passive process. You must intentionally create the moments along the way. Pick who you actually like. Although you may know on a subconscious level whether or not you like someone, it's good to be conscious of why you do. People you like are typically going to be people you have fun being around, people you respect, people with similar level of intelligence and social ability as you, people with similar interests, people you trust, people with similar values, and people with similar life goals. Building friendships requires an investment of time, and you want to choose your investments wisely. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that on average, it takes 50 hours of time with someone before you consider them a casual friend, 90 hours before you become good friends, and over 200 hours before you become close friends. In the adult world where everyone is busy with work and life, 50, 90, 200 hours are meaningful amounts of time that you won't get to have with everybody. The older we get, the more we realize that our biggest asset isn't our money, houses, cars, but our time. When we were little kids, spending 200 hours with someone could happen within months, but as adults, our time is much more limited. Use your time wisely. Spend it with people you actually like. There's a lot of truth to the saying, you become the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You start adopting the personalities, mindsets, behaviors, and habits of those around you. When you're going about picking the people you want to be better friends with, ask yourself, would I be happy if I became more like them? This should clarify who you actually want to be friends with. Strengthen relationships with those you like. So, you've intentionally found a person or people that you like. Great, but the intention doesn't stop there. It's on you to take an active role in developing the relationship. The other person may like you quite a bit, but they might be nervous or shy, or they might have a richer and busier social life than you. In short, they may be caught up in other things. This is common and normal, but you should take the initiative, nevertheless. This is your life. Remember? Contact is crucial. The logic to building friendships with other people is indisputable. To be closer with someone, you have to spend more time with them. Although in-person time is going to serve as the bedrock of your friendship, texts, calls, and internet-based communication can be supplemental. People are busy with their careers and lives, yourself probably included. We can be quick to bash smartphones nowadays, but they're undoubtedly powerful tools to keep us in touch with those we would otherwise lost touch with. A new friendship will likely fall apart if it wasn't for social media, text messaging, video chatting, or talking on the phone. Keep in mind that friendships aren't always formed linearly. They don't always unfold in the order of meeting, hanging out, casual friendship, and strong friendship. Some of your closest relationships may be with people you've known for years but never spent a lot of time with. Your closest relationships could have many starts and stops along the way. Priorities, priorities, priorities. There's an opportunity cost to developing a friendship. Like anything that requires both your time and effort, there comes a cost of not using that time and effort on other things. Although it's entirely possible to have a great career, exciting hobbies, fulfilling relationships, a partner you love, and a family, there are also things to which you must not allocate your precious time and effort if you want to keep your social life among your top priorities. What you typically have to sacrifice is the micro-level stuff. This includes spending money frivolously, watching TV, playing video games, scrolling on social media, engaging in trivial hobbies, and so on. These activities are fine, but they do take away the time, energy, and resources you could be using on your relationships. They have their time and place, and by no means am I advising you to get rid of them completely, but you may find yourself leaving the TV turned off for a night and choosing to meet up with a friend instead. If you're doing this for the right reasons and with the right people, it shouldn't feel like a sacrifice at all. It should feel like a trade in which you are getting a bargain. Because you are. The head of a department at a startup where I worked tried to get me to understand this, but I think I was a little too naive at the time. I've been a pretty frugal guy out of necessity. I moved to a new city, away from family, for university, so I had to support myself. When I had internships, I saved all my money, so I could survive the school semester without working a part-time job. So yes, I was pretty frugal with my money. The department head tried to explain to me that it's worth investing in relationships with people you care about, whether it's be going out to get drinks, food, or attending an event with them. In the end, prioritizing a relationship over a little bit of savings is going to be more beneficial. Does that mean spend recklessly? Absolutely not. I don't think that would be the case for me, given my personality and lifestyle. But it took me a while to truly understand what he meant. This concept applies to anything you choose to prioritize. Chances are, if you're struggling with your social life, there's something you're choosing to prioritize over it, consciously or not. For people like me, it's money. You figure out it's more cost efficient to eat at home than to invite a friend to meet you for dinner. For some people, it's video games or television. The next 3 episodes of Game of Thrones or a night with their League of Legends team might sound way better than spending time at a social event. For some people, it's work. Finishing the project you're working on feels more important than taking the evening off and meeting up with a friend. For some people, it's nothing external. Not being vulnerable and exposing yourself to rejection feels more comfortable than taking the initiative to text a friend and get together. At the end of the day, it's about your priorities. What are you choosing to prioritize? Be proactive. Being proactive in a relationship means showing up for your friends. Show up physically for your friends by hanging out with them and attending their events. Show up emotionally for your friends by being there for them during tough times, helping them in ways that are meaningful, celebrating their wins, and keeping yourself up to date with the things going on in their lives. Physically showing up for your friends means actively creating social activities for them to join. Instead of asking them if they want to hang out, suggest a time and place, and ask them if they want to join you. Being proactive means taking the initiative instead of leaving the burden of responsibility on them. Showing up physically for someone is just as important as showing up emotionally. A friendship is more about being connected emotionally than just occupying the same physical space for extended periods of time. Showing up emotionally for someone means being an active part of their personal life. Check in and remember the important parts in their life such as dates or events, accomplishments, job interviews, and family occasions. When they are going through something personal, ask them about it. It can be lonely and frustrated when you've gone through something significant, whether it be good or bad, and no one is there to validate or support you during it. If you're a good friend, that someone is you. As a friend, you want to see your friends do well in their personal life too. This is where you make an effort to help them succeed in whatever they are doing. Your friends are human, and they will inevitably have their own struggles, whether those struggles be centered around work, personal life, health, dating, family, or other relationships. The same concept applies. Show up for your friends and be proactive in reaching out to them or helping them. When offering help, stop saying, "Let me know if I can do anything for you," or "I'm here for you." Unfortunately, those platitudes don't mean much, and they place the burden of responsibility on the other person. As a proactive friend, you can say, "I'm here for you. Can I do blank for you?" If you can't think of anything to offer, you can try, "I want to help you, but I'm not exactly sure what I can do. What's the best way I can support you right now?" These questions show that you're taking on the responsibility of helping, which is far more thoughtful than forcing someone to be vulnerable when you were the one who wanted to help. Dating disaster. My friend Kenji was texting back and forth with a woman he was interested in. I was checking in and staying updated throughout the process. Suddenly the woman, Emily, asked him to hang out. Kenji was ecstatic. Kenji and Emily texted until the day before the date. Kenji updated me on what was going on. He mentioned that Emily didn't seem too excited about meeting with him, even though Emily was the one who asked Kenji out. Naturally, I was a little confused, so I asked Kenji to tell me about what he planned for the date. Kenji told me that he asked Emily to go on a walk along the trail like last time. They met up once before. In my perspective, it didn't take much time to realize why Emily wasn't thrilled about seeing him, because all Kenji did was ask her on a walk again. I immediately told Kenji that he needed to plan something more special than that. Dogs get excited about going on walks, not women. Sometimes things that sound obvious aren't so obvious, but I didn't judge him because I would have made a mistake like that a few years ago. He was starting to think his chances were slipping away, but I told him there was a solution. He was relieved and thanked me for being there. "Hold on, buddy, we still have lots of work to do." All Emily was expecting was a boring trail walk. I told him that he could make the date more special by planning a small picnic, getting takeout food when the walk ends. He thought this was a great idea, so I told him to find a takeout restaurant that they would both enjoy. I instructed him on how to find a good place and let him do his research. I also told him that he needed to take the lead on the date instead of asking for her input all the time and expecting her to initiate, which is what Kenji usually resorts to. He got back to me a few hours later with an idea about where to get food. He settled on bar food, and I told him it was a solid plan. He asked me what else he needed to prepare for the date. The only thing left was his clothes. I asked him what he was going to wear. He told me he was going to wear black joggers, a t-shirt, and sneakers. I told him that it wasn't a bad casual outfit, but he was missing something big. He was confused and asked what he was missing. I told him if she was the one to ask him out, that meant she liked him, which also meant she was probably going to dress up nice for the date. Kenji's mind was blown. He realized that yes, Emily was dressed pretty nicely when they met out for the first time. With that in mind, we settled on a slightly upgraded version of the original outfit. He's not much of a dress-up kind of guy, and left it at that. Kenji also asked me to meet up with them 2 hours before their date, so we could talk and get him in the right state of mind. I agreed. It was getting late in the night at that point, so we decided to talk the next day. That's where everything went downhill. Since the date was at 7 p.m., we decided to meet at 5 p.m. He called me in advance to tell me he was going to be a bit late. Not the best start to his day, but at least he was late with me and not with Emily. We exchanged a couple of text messages. Then he hit me with these texts. "Kenji, 5:10 p.m. I might need you to take my bag if that's alright. Kenji, 5:11 p.m. It's kind of invasive if I have a big sports bag." I was completely dumbfounded. Why did he have a big sports bag? Did this guy not realize he was going on a date? I was half laughing but half in complete shock from the sheer stupidity. I didn't want to carry a big sports bag on the walk home either, but I didn't want to jump to any conclusions, so I asked him why he had a sports bag. Kenji, 5:13 p.m. That's a good question. I always bring around a sports bag. Have you ever had one of those moments where you genuinely can't understand what someone was thinking when they made a decision? This was one of the moments for me. It gets a lot worse. Kenji, 5:31 p.m. Also, should I ask her now where we should meet up or leave it till the last minute? Hold up, you didn't confirm the date? Remember when I said the only thing that was left for him was to prepare his clothes? It didn't even occur to me that something as basic as confirming early in the day was something he'd miss. But I was wrong. Keep in mind that this was at 5:31 p.m., an hour and a half before the date. and Emily had no idea if the date was happening or not, because Kenji didn't confirm. As soon as he told me that hasn't yet happened, I knew the date wasn't happening, although I didn't tell him that. I was hoping Emily would ignore this boneheaded move because she liked him, but I knew that was unlikely. As predicted, Kenji told me that Emily bailed on the date. He proceeded to question what this woman was thinking. I was pretty annoyed because he still didn't understand. But since I'm his friend, I explained exactly what he did wrong and how he could improve. I didn't pull any punches during the explanation. I told him to meet up with me anyway, so that we could talk more. We met up as planned, and I asked him how he was doing. He was in a surprisingly good mood. Whether or not it was just a mask to hide his pain, I don't know. When we talked about Emily, he laughed, not taking the situation seriously. At that point, I started to get heated. I asked him why he was so giddy and said that if he wasn't going to take this seriously, I would walk away and let him suffer in dating forever. He immediately snapped back into reality and apologized. So I explained exactly what he did wrong. We ended up talking for a good hour, and by talking, I mean me explaining everything and Kenji being confused, shocked, and angry at himself. Basically, all of his problems stem from the fact that all of his dating experiences have been with women who came to him. He hadn't put any thought or effort into his dating life. I told him that unless he's rich, famous, extremely good looking, or has an amazing lifestyle, women won't be doing that too often. And the women that he wants to date most likely won't. This is true for most men, me included. He told me that he felt so bad for not realizing this. He was furious with himself for making these mistakes. I told him this was a learning experience and he probably wouldn't ever make the same mistakes again. I recommended he read a good dating advice book. By recommended, I mean I pretty much forced him to read it, but he recognized the value, so convincing him wasn't that hard. I said to him, only half-jokingly, if I have to smack you over the head with this book so the contents bleed into your brain, I will, but I'd rather you read the book. We laughed pretty hard about it, but I think he understood my seriousness. Kenji is a pretty solid guy. I have no doubt he's going to find someone that he really likes and who really likes him. Hopefully, he won't make as many stupid mistakes as he did with Emily. The point of this story is that I used my gifts of experience and knowledge to help out a good friend. It was only possible because I was proactive enough to keep myself updated on his life. When the topic of his date came up, he was in a great position to receive the help he so desperately needed. Drill this concept into your head. Be proactive in your social relationships. Be thoughtful. Being proactive in your relationships can also mean being thoughtful. Being thoughtful means you do things to benefit the other person for the sake of the friendship, without being asked to. Unless you're naturally thoughtful, you can help yourself to become more thoughtful by asking, if I were my friend, what would I appreciate right now? There are basic everyday things that everyone would likely appreciate, like bringing a friend a cup of coffee, buying them lunch, giving them praise and compliments, or asking them to spend time with you. But where your effort becomes impactful is when you tailor it to a specific person. Doing so requires you to have some sort of previous connection and knowledge to the other person's preferences. This is a made-up list of imaginary people's preferences, but take it as inspiration. Bringing them tacos because they were craving tacos. Bringing them sushi because they got stood up for a sushi date. Recommend to them your favorite dating advice book because you two talked about dating struggles. Send their resume to someone in your network who may know about a job opening for them. Prepare meals for them because they're sick in the hospital but still need to take care of their kids. Offer help planning their anniversary date with their partner. Insist you do a mock job interview together when you know they have a big interview coming up. Get them a small gift to pay respects for a loved one that passed away recently. What to do together? By now, you should understand that you need to spend lots of time with someone to develop a strong relationship with them. The question now is, what do you do together? Regardless of what you do, the main factor that would drive your friendships is the quality of your conversations, since conversations lead to connection. However, what you do while you have those conversations can play a big role in supplementing your connections. Eating food, having drinks. The most culturally accepted way to hang out with someone is to get food or drinks with them. This is one of the most comfortable ways to bond with someone, since everyone is used to the idea of going to a restaurant or bar. Play. Playing together is an underrated way to build friendship. When you and your friend are playing, you are focused on having fun and enjoying yourselves, and in doing so, supercharge your connection. Play is not something that only kids do, it's something that adults forget to do. We get so tied up in our jobs, finances, responsibilities, relationships, and being mature, whatever that means, that we forget to have fun. Screw having boring coffee meetups. Go kick some soccer balls. Playing removes a lot of the pressures that come with socializing, such as trying to impress each other. It's hard not to have fun when you're running after a frisbee at full speed or playing a close game of FIFA. That's the idea of play. Pretend you and your friend are little kids again, running around, having fun, and not caring about anything else other than enjoying yourselves. Little kids don't care about how impressive they are or how foolish they look. They aren't preoccupied with their phones, or at least our generation wasn't. It's just free-flowing fun and emotions. Here is a small collection of play ideas. Sports. Basketball, soccer, tennis, football, frisbee, bowling, golf, martial arts, baseball, hockey, volleyball, archery, kayaking, rock climbing, skateboarding, skiing, snowboarding, swimming, shooting. Games. Billiards, darts, card games, poker, board games, paintball, laser tag, mini golf, escape rooms, arcade, video games, virtual reality, amusement park. Art. Painting, drawing, creating music, freestyle rapping, dancing, cooking, baking, making films. Exploring/adventuring. Hiking, visiting a new place, traveling, trying new restaurants. Achieving the same goal. Sometimes, friendships can develop as a result of two people attempting to accomplish the same goal. This works best when the goal is one that takes time to develop. This means you and your friend will have many hours worth of bonding as you try to accomplish your goal. I once ran into a guy I knew from school during my last year of university studies. I had a class with him previously, and he seemed like a cool guy. I always saw him around campus, but never hung out with him, so when we saw each other this time, we made plans to get drinks. A week or so later, we met up. We immediately clicked as we started talking. It was like we were friends who have known each other for years. We talked about business, school, work, health, podcasts, and women. It became evident that we were both interested in improving our dating lives, so I asked him if he would like to work together on our current situations. He was curious, since no one has asked him that before, but he said sure. Just like that, I was able to spend a few hours every week hanging out with a cool, genuine guy and attempting to accomplish a goal I want to achieve. We're still good friends irrespective of our dating lives, but working together to improve our individual situations with women made our friendship much stronger. Any goal you and someone else have in common can be the basis of a new friendship. Depending on the goal, you can meet up to directly accomplish it, or to talk and to support each other in your individual quests. Common goals can include relationships, dating, family, raising kids, career, promotions, getting a job, career development, making more money, building a business, self-improvement, health, fitness, social life, spirituality. Hangout. If the quality of your interaction is good enough, you don't necessarily need to do anything special to have a good time and develop the friendship further. Some of my best moments with my friends have been from just walking around and talking with them, because the quality of the conversation was so wonderful. Whether it's walking around, sitting somewhere, or going over to a friend's house and having them come to yours, hanging out is a comfortable, inexpensive way to spend time with someone. Consistency. As we know from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationship Study, it takes many hours to build a friendship, and we are quite busy people. You and your friend will need to communicate and spend time together consistently, so you can get those quality hours. You don't need to create a schedule for your meetups, although you can if you want. But you do need to make an effort to reach out on a regular basis. Strong friendships aren't developed from one-off events or moments, but are built by small, consistent actions repeated over a period of time. This is reality, not Hollywood. Groups. All this information in this chapter also applies to groups. You don't need to be in a one-on-one situation to build friendships. You can do it in groups as well. In fact, groups are preferable, especially when you're first starting out, because groups help you create a tribe of people with whom you belong. The support and companionship that a good quality group can bring is priceless. If you're looking to create a group of friends from scratch, you need to either host a gathering with a collection of people you like, or build individual relationships with people and introduce them to each other with the goal that over time, you'll all hang out together. Trust. Trust is something you either have with someone or you don't. Sure, it exists on a spectrum, as there are certain things you can trust people with and not others. You may trust a person to be a kind person, but you may not trust them with your deepest insecurity. But if you don't have a strong perception of trust in another person, it will be almost impossible to build a true friendship with them. The ingredients of a good friendship include emotional connection and time. Strengthening a connection with anyone requires trust. If there's no trust, there's no hope for authentic connection. Building trust is not as straightforward as not lying or not sharing secrets, although not doing either of those things is huge. If you don't live your life with honesty, integrity, and vulnerability, you're setting yourself up for people to distrust you. If you are a reliable person to yourself, you are most certainly going to manifest this quality in your relationships, intentionally or not. Being honest and living with integrity is the absolute non-negotiable minimum for a strong relationship. But there's more. Your word is your bond. Do you live up to your word? When you say you're going to do something, do you do it? While you may be quick to say yes, think about it for a moment. While not living up to your word isn't necessarily lying, it's not being honest either. Not living up to your bond can affect the trust another person has for you. This happens when someone begins to view your word, your primary form of communication, as inaccurate and unreliable. If someone is emotionally invested in your word and then you betray it, you likely exacerbate the distrust that person has for you. If someone plans an event and you said you were going to attend but don't, you affect the reliability of your word. Doubly so if you don't give sufficient notice. If you say you're going to do someone a favor and you don't follow through with it, you affect your credibility. Wasting time. Do you waste people's time? This one doesn't exactly sound like it's related to trust, but it certainly is. When someone makes an effort and allocates time to meet up with you, they're doing so on the premise that you are a good, interesting person. If you betray that expectation and waste their time, what diminishes are their expectations and by extension, their trust in you. You can waste people's time in a number of different ways. Being late, being selfish, talking about yourself too much, being boring, being negative, complaining, whining, arguing, creating problems, criticizing, or being socially uncalibrated. Keeping your mouth shut. Do you keep secrets? If you're being vulnerable with another person and that person is being vulnerable with you, it means they trust you enough to share things that are personal and sensitive. What do you do when you hear those things? Do you run around to people you know and tell them? Or do you keep the information between you and the person who confided in you? There are few things that feel more betraying in a friendship than realizing that the other person you trusted shared something that was meant to be private. Talk about a friendship killer. Mental security. Do you let your insecurities get the best of you? At first, mental security doesn't seem to bear a strong relationship to trust, but it most certainly does. Remember, trust isn't just about not lying. It's about being honest and having integrity. Letting your insecurities get the best of you compromises your integrity. Your insecurities can get the best of you in a number of ways. You may react poorly to other people's success, criticize yourself and others too much, or sacrifice your identity too often to please others. It's important to know that everyone has insecurities. Even the people who you think are perfect have their own insecurities. Of course, some people may have deeper insecurities than others, but to think that someone has no insecurities just means that you don't know them well enough. If a person makes you feel insecure, you don't have to be around them. This may not be their fault, nor yours. It's possible that what you're experiencing is just a mismatch of emotional states. This is normal. Simply work on overcoming your own. Do you find yourself becoming overly jealous or bitter towards other people's success? It's normal to wish you were in someone else's shoes, but the reality is, if you socialize with people, you will come across a large number of people who will have it better than you, or have it better in certain areas of their lives, whether those areas be career, finances, lifestyle, appearance, romantic relationships, family, social ability, talents, and so on. If another person makes you insecure, you don't have to fake being happy or unbothered, but you start lashing out, overcompensating, getting competitive, or making attempts to tear people down, the other person will quickly pick up on your behavior and their trust in your character will likely deteriorate. Do you complain or criticize too much? Once again, overly complaining or criticizing is a sign of underlying issues that you haven't worked through yet. These issues manifest through anger. Do you find yourself supplicating to others? Supplicating to others means you defer power, respect, and authority to someone who you perceive as better than you. It's normal to be in a friendship dynamic where one person is perceived to be better, however you choose to define that. But how does the quote-unquote lesser person react? Do they take inspiration and continue to have a horizontal relationship? Or do they supplicate and create a vertical relationship? The difference between a horizontal and vertical relationship is that in a vertical one, there is a clear power and authority difference, while in a horizontal relationship, both parties see each other as equals. Unless the person who is on top of the vertical relationship is a narcissistic jerk who tries to hold power over the other, chances are the vertical relationship is present because the lower person is acting in ways that create such a dynamic. This can be done through sucking up to the other person through excessive praise and compliments, fearing the other person, holding back, trying too hard to not make the other person have a negative response, being overly nervous around them, etc. I've been on both sides throughout my life, and I can attest to the fact that my being on the lower end of the vertical was entirely due to my actions and thoughts. The same goes for when I was at the top of the vertical relationship. I'm not a narcissistic tyrant, or at least I don't think I am, and I don't do much to make other people feel lesser. But whether it is because of how I carried myself, how quote-unquote successful I was in my life at the time, or my ability to be social, the other person in the relationship supplicated. Although you may like feeling powerful, understand that feeling powerful is hollow and fleeting. It's an ego trip, but doesn't do good for forming a friendship, since the mismatch in integrity or respect is sure to cause problems, even if both of you are honest, well-intentioned people. Best friends, not forever. Not all people are going to become your friends, and not all your friends are going to become your friends forever. This isn't necessarily a reflection of you as a person, although it can be. The bigger point is the importance of finding those who you're compatible with, which is not going to be everyone. When to break off a friendship. The obvious reason to break off a friendship is when you don't like the other person. You don't need to justify to someone else, or yourself, why you don't like them. But if you don't want to have that conversation, it's best for everyone if you stop pursuing that friendship. You don't need to justify your feelings. By the same token, if someone doesn't like you, stop pursuing a friendship with them. The other person doesn't have to justify why they don't like you. If you intentionally put in effort and that person doesn't reciprocate after a reasonable period of time, this may be a sign to break it off. Another big reason why you might want to break off or stop pursuing a friendship is if you don't share the same values. You two could like each other quite a bit, but your differences in values could inspire you to invest your time and effort elsewhere. You're going to inevitably become similar to those you spend lots of time with. And you may realize that while you might like someone, you aren't willing to adopt their values or lifestyles. Consciously understanding differences in values might make others think you're shallow, rude, or picky, but that's simply not the case. Values are values for a reason, because you find them to be important. If your values are important to you, you will be critical to those who don't share the same ones. This doesn't make you a bad person, just a person with strong values. You can't force friendships either. People are people. They make their own decisions, and some of those decisions include not being friends with certain individuals. Don't try to force a friendship, and definitely don't sacrifice your own self-respect for one. How to break off a relationship. The great thing about removing friends from your life is that there are no lawyers or children involved in the divorce, and there's no dramatic breakup that's required. Unless, of course, you're breaking off a romantic relationship or a marriage. You simply have to stop hanging out with them. Stop inviting them to your events. Stop sending them texts, and communicate your thoughts to them if need be. Your friendship or friendships will slowly fade away, although you may need to directly express your issues if the other person doesn't get the message. Key takeaways. The solution to the box-to-box lifestyle is to have a social life with friends with whom you have strong connections and you see often face-to-face. The key to creating this social life is to be intentional. You do this by intentionally picking who you actually like and intentionally strengthening relationships with those you like. It can take upwards of 200 hours before someone becomes a close friend. Choose who you spend your time with wisely. People you like are typically going to be people you have fun with, people you respect, people with similar levels of intelligence and social ability as you, people with similar interests, and people with similar life goals. To develop relationships you enjoy, try to establish consistent face-to-face contact with your friends. You need to develop trust in order for a connection to grow and flourish. You can break off friendships when you feel it's not working, whether it's because you don't like the other person doesn't like you, or your values interfere with the friendship.